Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast, where we talk about the nuts and bolts of real estate investing. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing spectacularly awesome, Joe. How are you?
I am doing pretty darn good as well. Cannot complain.
Well, I'm sure you can't because you're somewhere fun. I'm sitting in my kitchen and you're sitting somewhere in your van. So as usual, let's check in. Where you at? Tell us what's up.
Well, first, let's be honest, Julie, your kitchen's pretty sweet. So
True that.
I'm just outside of Yellowstone National Park in the town of West Yellowstone, which actually is kind of a cute little town with coffee shops and not a lot of the, more mainstream restaurants and things. It's kind of like small townish, but, I've got solid internet, which is cool.
That's good stuff, man. I have been there, I don't know, a couple years ago. And isn't there like a grizzly bear museum there? I think there is. You might want to check it out.
There probably is. And as far as wildlife talk goes, though, I think since the last time we talked, I've seen 4 moose, which are awesome. I was running down the trail the other day and this moose steps out onto the trail about 20 yards in front of me. And these things are huge.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked up and was like, there's a horse on the trail. And I was like, wait a second, that is not a horse. And then another one came walking by. And then maybe a mile down the road further, there's a huge bull moose. So huge antlers.
Whoa.
That's sitting laying next to this creek that's probably 50 yards off of the trail. Super cool.
Do you guys ever see any other people when you're out in the sticks on these trails?
Oh my gosh, you know what? It was so packed in the Grand Tetons. I couldn't even believe it. We were doing hikes that were 10 to 14 miles and it was packed.
Huh. Yeah.
Craziness.
Wow. Because I was because I like to get my mothering skills on, and I'm like, maybe Joe should be wearing a bright orange jacket when he's running when you guys are doing these crazy backwards stuff, so you don't not backwards, but you don't get shot by some hunter or something,
Yeah, for the most part in the national parks, they don't allow you to have guns or anything like that. But somebody could bear spray us. That would be unfortunate. But to be honest with you, the Tetons and Yellowstone are so packed that it feels a little claustrophobic.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts.
We are all enjoying your adventure. And we are all, I like to find the transition, and sometimes it's hard to do. So I was going to say, we're all enjoying our adventure in real estate. Wah, wah, wah. That's not a very good transition, but it's true.
It is an adventure.
It's true. It is. So what are we talking about today?
We as thought leaders, or we try to be thought leaders in the industry. I think we do a good job. But we get asked a lot of questions. And a lot of times it's good to just step back and go over the questions that we get asked on the regular. So in this podcast, we're just going to be talking about the 5 or 10 questions that you and I both get asked the most often. And I will go ahead and let you kick it off on what's the question that you get asked the most often there, Julie?
Well, God, the question I'm going to go back to the basics here, because usually they're not complicated, or they're not I would say high level, deep questions that I get asked. I get asked a lot of questions that are kind of on the basic level, which is nice and refreshing, because sometimes we get going through these podcasts and club meetings and everything else, and I feel like, what else can we talk about that's a deep dive into something, and I forget that, just the good old basics is good information too. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot is kind of just what are the mechanics of assigning a contract?
Good one.
Yeah. And, the answer is basically what an assignment is when you have an opportunity as an investor with your company. You're hopefully not operating in your personal name, so we'll assume everybody knows that. Otherwise, call a real estate attorney and get that straightened out. But when you have an opportunity to purchase a property and you go ahead and work out a deal with the seller, you give them a purchase and sale agreement, and within that agreement, as investors, hopefully the investors that we're working with and around the country know this, that you should always, if you can, have assignment language in your contract. That means it gives you the right to assign your contract position to another buyer, ideally without the seller's consent. It's written in a certain way that you can do that as a line item on one of your contract terms. It's totally legal. It's a big part of real estate investing. And simply what that means is that if you decided for whatever reason that you weren't going to end up and buy and close on that property, you could take what's called an assignment contract, which is a separate, I'll call it a 2-page document outside of your purchase and sale agreement, and you can assign your contract position to another buyer. So you have, I'll just give you a little bit of the mechanics. So you have your purchase and sale agreement that has assignment language in it, or else you can't do it. So let's assume that we all have that. And then the question is, now what do I do? Well, you decide you're not going to sell it. You don't need to tell the seller anything because you have that language in your contract that gives you the right to do so if you want to, right? Although I'll say, for side note, that honesty is the best policy. Sellers don't like to be surprised with stuff. And, when you get under contract with properties, it's sometimes a great idea. And if you find that the seller is working with you closely, then you just say, I'm going to buy it. Or, if I don't end up buying it, I, work with a lot of investors and one of them might buy that. And they might be like, fine, just as long as somebody buys my property. That kind of, keeps the communication flow open and no hidden agendas or anything like that. It's up to you guys to decide how you roll. We have other topics we'll discuss on other days about that. But so you simply have your contract. Now you've found, we won't get into how you find the buyers and all that, but let's say you have a buyer to step into your position. You would take what's called an assignment agreement. For us, it's a 2-page contract. In fact, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, both our purchase, Joe and I's personal off-market purchase and sale agreement and our assignment contract is actually fully available for you guys to use, or to use as a guide or whatever you want to do. And it's on our website at seattleinvestorsclub.com. What section it is under, Joe?
There's a little tab that says store. If you just click on that, you should find it.
Yeah, or you can throw it down in the show notes too, right?
I will do that as well. But
Yeah.
It's at the store tab.
Yeah, it's super cheap, guys. It's rather than reinvent the wheel, you might want to check that out and go just grab ours, and then feel free to contact me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com with any questions that you have on those. But it's a nice way to get started. So you take a 2-page assignment contract that basically says that the purchase and sale agreement dated whatever the date is assignable to this new buyer for an assignment fee, and that's all negotiable. The assignment language that's on the MLS contracts, there is an assignment form. I think it's form 32 on the MLS. If you're not an agent, you can't use it, but that also doesn't have any place for you to write in a fee. So you need to be able to write in what your assignment fee is. You need to have terms in there maybe that say that your assignment is not assignable, so somebody can't daisy chain it down and try and make money off that again. And then it gets complicated and the seller finds out and they kill the deal. But the assignment contract is totally separate from the purchase and sale agreement. The assignment contract is between you and the buyer you find that's going to step into your shoes. It is not between the seller. The underlying seller is not a party to that agreement. They don't need to see it. They don't, it has nothing to do with them. It's a separate contract that gives your new buyer access and the right to close on the terms you have in the underlying purchase and sale agreement. And that's about it, guys. That's how you assign. When you get to the point where you have those documents signed by you and the new buyer, again, it has nothing to do with the seller on the assignment portion of the contract, then you would go ahead and you would give that assignment agreement to the escrow officer that's called out in the purchase and sale agreement as being the closer, and they'll take it from there. We use Lynn Rivera at Escrow Services of Washington. That's who we use for all our investment transactions, and that if you guys want to call her, we use her just on our wholesale deals. I don't use her on the back end when we relist or anything like that, but she's great. But that's how you do an assignment. Basically, it's purchase and sale agreement is one document set. Assignment agreement, just a 2-page document. Why is it 2 pages? Because the first page is kind of the standard legal information that any assignment agreement would have. The addendum that we use calls out our specific things, like it says, if the new buyer terminates this assignment agreement for any reason, that the earnest money deposit that they are required to pay as part of this contract assignment converts to a termination fee. So we get to keep that in case they back out. That normally doesn't happen to us, but you never know. It certainly could. That's it. How do you get paid an assignment is another kind of part B question that I get asked all the time. And it'll just be a line item paid by the end buyer, your new buyer, that gets wired to you at closing from the escrow company. Again, the seller won't see it. It's not recorded as part of the purchase price. It's just like an expense of the buyer. So the buyer, the end buyer that you've assigned to, will pay that to you. We've always done it through closing, through escrow. Some other wholesalers may require or try and get that paid up front before closing at the time of assignment. We don't do that because it's burdensome, and we want to make sure that everybody's happy. We're not just that's just not how we roll. So most people don't roll that way. There may be a few. If anybody asks you to pay an assignment fee up front before closing, I would be leery of that, but that's just me. It happens. But that's it. Now, if you're a real estate agent and you're also an investor and you're signing your contract, the question becomes, well, is that considered a commission, right? It's an assignment fee. You're not actually, getting paid a commission. You're getting paid a fee to step into your contract position. You're not, brokering a property. You're basically selling your contract position. Do you need to tell your broker? Yes, you do. You need to tell your designated broker that you are an investor, that you're going to be buying and selling properties, and that may involve collecting, doing an assignment, collecting an assignment fee. And, is that okay with them? Your goal on that as an agent then is, if you assigned it, that you would probably get the list back. At least that's what I would. You can't require it, but, professional reciprocity would mean that most likely that buyer is going to give it to you, or you're probably never going to assign them a deal again, right? Just everybody's in business to make money. So your brokerage firm is going to make money on a nice renovated listing. And it's between you and your designated broker how to treat an assignment fee. It's technically not a commission, but they need to know about it, and, just be open. If you want to talk about, which brokers understand it and which don't, as far as designated brokers, some do, some don't. And we'll talk more about that, or we can give you some ideas of who might be investor-friendly brokerages if you come to SIC, one of our Seattle Investors Club meetings, or feel free to just email me, julie@seattleeinvestorsclub.com. So those are the long answers that I just gave you. The easy answer is, if you want to see all this in writing, just go grab our contracts off of SeattleInvestorsClub.com, off our website. That's the simplest way, and then call me with your questions.
I think that's good though, Julie, because when I was first getting started, it would have been really nice to have somebody just lay that out for me like you just did. Really nice.
Yeah, I think people get, it's those little tiny details. They get the concepts. Most people listen to our podcast or Bigger Pockets or whatever real estate guru. They read their books there or whatever. But it usually comes into these finite little small details that just that one or two questions where people get hung up. And so, again, I think one of those big ones is, does the seller need to know about the assignment? Well, no, they don't need to know about the assignment. They don't need to be a party to any assignment paperwork. That's between you and the end buyer, you as the buyer, and then the buyer that's going to replace you. The seller doesn't need a copy of that, doesn't need to sign it. You do need to send it into escrow, right? And it needs to be between you and the other buyer party, the end buyer. It needs to be signed. And again, anything can be written on an addendum. Remember that. Any terms you want to have on any contract can be added through like addendum language. If you've had experiences and you're like, damn, I'm not going to let that happen again, create a contract term and make sure it's included in some addendum that you're using on whatever contract that you're using. Now, disclaimer, probably most of you listening are not real estate attorneys. So should you write your own contract language? No. Can you draft something and then, with the concept of what you're trying to accomplish and then give it over to your real estate attorney to bless off? Yes. Okay. So both our assignment agreement and our purchase and sale agreement that are off market have been blessed off and reviewed by a major attorney that deals with a lot of wholesaling actually nationwide. So they were written for us. So just know that. But conceptually, there's great info for you guys. And we have disclaimers on there, but so, there's disclaimers, if you open a pack of chewing gum and chew it the wrong way. So you guys, be smart, use your own judgment and operate under your own due diligence. But, there you go. Man, I burned a lot of time on that. You know what it is that I had about 10 ounces of coffee instead of 20. So I'm a little in that draggy spot in the middle. If I would have drank my other 10 ounces, I probably would have answered that in about 5 minutes instead of the 15 or 20 I just took. So my apologies, guys.
Same amount of words, just half the time.
Yeah. Jeez. God. Well, what do you got, Joe? Let's get one of yours out there.
Yeah. Well, probably the question that I get the most often, or, maybe not the most, but one of the top is what marketing works for us. And I'm sure that you'll have some things to chime in on as well with this, Julie. But just so you guys know, some of the marketing things that we've tried are pretty much anything you can think of. We've tried it. Why not? And that would include obviously direct mail, Facebook, Google AdWords is a big one that people always ask about. And when it comes to direct mail, postcards versus letters, flyers. Gosh, what else have we tried? We have
not had the guy out on the corner spinning the sign. You know what I mean? Like the pizza guys or whatever.
We haven't.
We have not done that. We've done bandit signs, but we didn't do them that long because we're lazy. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing with bandit signs is that you as a business owner, if you need to hustle, do those bandit signs, get out there, do them yourself. But as you start making money, you need to find somebody to replace those jobs that you don't like to do. And it's really been hard for us to find people that will committedly put those things out and take them down when the city or county or whoever calls you and says you need to take them down.
Right.
So are they great? Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had success early on in my real estate investing life with bandit signs, but it was only when I was putting them out. It's never been very successful having somebody else do it, because you usually get that call from the city or whatnot, and they're like, take them down now. And you call your sign guy and they're nowhere to be found.
Right.
So can they work? Yeah, I highly recommend them. As far as the other stuff goes, though, Facebook, I think we've done one deal off of Facebook, but it's been kind of a struggle, and I constantly am trying to tweak that. As far as the marketing goes, though, for deals versus our investment club that we talk about, Seattle Investors Club, it does work the Facebook ads have been working for our club. So I know that's a far different game than trying to find deals, but we have had some success and continue to try and use the Facebook marketing because it's so cheap right now. And I keep hearing people talk about that because I do a lot of reading and learning about marketing, and people keep saying that Facebook is cheap right now, but they don't expect it to stay cheap. So we're always trying to figure it out and do as best we can with it, with the assumption that it's going to jump up in price like Google AdWords in the future. And hopefully we can figure out what works and get an ROI, a solid ROI on it before that happens.
You know what I think about marketing? I think it's hard for me. I'm a real estate number cruncher head. So that side of my brain is weak. That's why Joe and I are great partners, because he's strong on that side. I am weak. It drives me nuts, the whole marketing stuff. I feel like my success is if I simply can get somebody on the phone, or I can get in person with somebody. That's why I'm actually a fan right now of the whole door knocking.
Yep.
Just because my skill set, if you've got a great skill set of talking to people and you know which hat to put on, because I wear many different hats, which makes it actually worth my time to talk to anybody, because it doesn't really matter what they say to me. If they own a piece of real estate, I can make some money off of it. I don't care how. That's the beauty of being an agent and an investor and a business owner, and just being able to switch those hats around. But I think door knocking, like a driving for dollars door knocking campaign with some sort of marketing piece that gets left at the house with whatever message that is your niche. We're about to attempt that on a specialty program, I guess, that we offer that probably nobody else is offering, that is great for us because I'm both an agent and an investor. So if I miss on one little part of the message, I can pick it up on the other. Won't bore you with the details on that right now. Unless it really works, then I'll roll it out to you in one of the programs that we're working on for all you guys. But door knocking, it's great practice. It's cheap. That's where I'm at. And, always make sure you guys to collect cell phone numbers if possible, and email addresses. Because remember, if you have an email address, now you can follow up very easily with people just through email, right? And a lot of people respond through text. So just be focused on getting text or cell phones that you can text to, and making a notification on your marketing, whether it's a landline or it's a cell phone that you can text to. But all this marketing talk, follow up is the key. But I guess you can't follow up unless somebody's talked to you in the first place, right?
Yeah, and we could talk about follow-up with marketing too, and that's a good thing to talk about after we go through all the different marketing types that we've done. But people always ask me too if Google AdWords work, and we did them for about a year and a half, and they did work. We were in the black, but you should know that we were never in the black enough to really scale it and make it worth our time. It'd be like, hey, we spent 10 grand and then we made 12. And then we spent 8 and we made 10. So it was like we kept jumping forward, but after doing that a handful of times, we decided that it probably was not worth our time because it didn't look like it was moving in the right direction. So can it work? I think it totally can work if you're in a market that is maybe smaller or less tech savvy than, let's say, Seattle or San Francisco or maybe even LA. You're probably going to have less cost per click down or wherever you're at, and you should give it a shot. I would definitely give that a shot, but it didn't work for us.
It takes money to make money. That's the hard part,
Totally.
Money to make money. So all this marketing works. All of it works. But the problem is, it's you have to have faith in the process, and you might have to drop a bunch of money to get over this hump, especially when you're getting started, even if it's, you have a limited budget, you need to do these marketing, pick whatever your marketing niche is going to be and become the master at it, whether that's direct mail or you want to commit to the pay-per-click or, whatever you want to do, driving for dollars or door knocking. you should stick, if you're limited, stick to one, I think. I don't know. I'm talking off the top of my head just as one of you guys here. But we have become masters at direct mail. And part of that is we also have good phone skills, right?
Yep.
And so if you can just mail anything out every week, or twice a month, you just keep going. And I promise you it's going to work. But you have to not worry about when it's going to work. You have to say, I'm going to commit to doing this for 9 months. And you need to not question it on month 3 if it hasn't gotten exciting for you yet. You get started, put your budget aside, say, I'm going to use $10,000 of my money that I'm going to commit to marketing, or I'm going to commit 10,000 hours of my time. I don't know if that makes sense, but you guys get conceptually what I'm saying. Time or money, right?
Yep.
Money allows you to be lazier, right? If you don't have money, then you got to have hustle, right? We are experts at hustle, and hustle is fun. It's actually more rewarding on the hustle, to be honest with you. But as you get going, obviously you want to try and scale back how much effort you have to make money. So if you have money, do a consistent direct mail campaign. And I'm a fan of postcards because they're cheap and they work. And what's the message, right? That's another one of my questions, right? What's the message we put on there? We'll talk about that in a minute. But, as far as being on the one that goes on all these appointments, direct mail has been the big winner for us. And that's been just postcards. Forget about the message. It's, the postcards and the follow-up. Really, it's the follow-up. And you just got to get that first call, whether they say yes, no, or piss off. We're actually looking at dead leads from 2 or 3 years ago that told us to piss off. Well, you told us to piss off. Well, now we're going to, if you didn't, then you're worth another call here 3 years later. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
as the market's changing. So.
Yep. And Julie's completely right. It is the direct mail marketing that has been our best marketing source for sure. And people always are surprised at that when I say it. But I was reading something just actually, it was either this morning or yesterday, and it was a marketing book that was not real estate related. And they had talked about how print marketing had decreased so much in the last couple of years that it now works again, or it's working better than it has because people stopped using it.
We recently, our last mail drop, we probably had more calls than we've had in years, I think, off, percentage wise, it feels like right now. Our phone's been ringing off the hook for 10 days to 2 weeks right now off of one of our standard drops. It's not anything that we haven't dropped before. It didn't even change the message or what we had on there, and boom. But part of that is probably because the market's shifting, right?
Yep.
But, it's about pushing through the slow times, I think, right? That's the difference between people who make it and they don't. They push through the slow times. You just keep going. It's called faith in the process. And the only thing you need to decide is how much money am I willing to commit where I'm never going to give up no matter what happens in the middle, as long as I'm measuring and tweaking. But the actual idea of consistently marketing, I'm not going to give up. Even if the first 4 months are slow, I'm going to push on and push on. That's called faith in the process. And you have all these experienced people that'll tell you that makes or breaks the big boys and the big girls right there. Okay. Yep. So if you don't have the money, then you have the time and the hustle. How many hours are you willing to commit to over the next 9 months? I guarantee you it's going to work. But you just pick that number and you do not waver it. Can you adjust how you do it, or which neighborhood you go to, or, how many times you do a knock, 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 or do you do a bam, bam, bam? I mean, whatever you want to suggest. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? You just have to commit to the process. I can't tell you how many times Joe and I have been up against the wall where we've been like, God, are you kidding me? It's like every year, honestly. Yep. Every year. And, if we just continue to push through, something always good happens. You got to believe in the process. Time or money. Time or money.
Heck yeah. And before I forget, because we always forget to promote things on here, or at least I do, we have a discount code for yellowletters.com if you guys want to use it, which is Seattle Investors Club. So if you want to get going on your marketing and you need a little discount, go to yellowletters.com and use the code Seattle Investors Club.
There you go. Right?
All right,
Well,
Julie.
what about talking about, like, let's go back to what I get this question a lot. What do I put on, or here's my postcard. Can you look at it? Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Right. I have people do that with me. And then I'm like, oh, you went with the glossy color, same, no, guys, you need to go as cheap as possible, is my opinion.
Oh my gosh, Julie. And give me just a second here. I've had people more often than not send me their postcard and I give them advice on get rid of this, like you said, glossy, creative looking, blah, blah, blah thing that doesn't usually matter. And then they keep it on there. And I'm like, okay, do what you do. I've never done this before.
Yeah. 0 calls, guys. 0 calls on that sort of stuff. Don't go with what looks like a realtor postcard, or your goal is to make it look ugly and almost like handwritten, like you barely care. Like you're just like, hey, if you want to sell, I want to buy. I mean, honestly, It's cheap, flimsy. It doesn't matter. I mean, is there some sense to have some uniqueness on it?
Maybe.
There is, but don't overthink it. Honestly, it's less about that. Once you get rolling and you're feeling comfortable, open your brain up to start thinking about how you want to get creative about it. Otherwise, I mean, simply you just want to say, hey, if you've considered selling, I'd like to make you, a fair cash offer, no low ball, no commissions, as is. If you're interested, here's my number. I mean, honestly, that simple, because when people want to sell, they want to sell. Yep. Right. And once your skills get set and it gets larger and you have more tools in your tool belt on what you can offer, other than just simply a, cash offer as an investor, there's so many more things that you can do that if you guys stick with us, you're going to learn. And of course, my favorite is to get your real estate license. I've said that a million times because it gives you're spending all this money. We're talking about time or money, right? What's more valuable to me? Honestly, my time.
Totally.
So my time is more valuable. I'll overspend on the money just to keep my time. But with that said, time and money both valuable. Why the heck would you take any of your opportunities off the table if you're having to make that big of an effort or commit to spending, let's just say 10 grand over 9 months or something like that? Don't you want to have every toolbox that you can? I mean, if you could add on a tool for $1,000 that could 100% change your success and the what you can do with the leads that you get, why the heck wouldn't you do that? It's called a real estate license. Yeah. If you want to know what I'm talking about, or you want to know more about how to be an agent investor, email me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com, because it's what the smart people do, guys, in my opinion. The rest, I'm not saying there aren't smart people that don't have a license. There's a lot of people that have a license and don't use it, right? They network and they buy from wholesalers, but they know it's beneficial to just have one on the books so you can pull it out and use it when you need to, okay? I wear mine as a badge on front. I love it. It's awesome for us. But if some of those big investors, at least I know in the Seattle area, they might not, might never see them listing anything or using their license, but a lot of them have it because they know the value is there. It's almost like an insurance policy too. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. You want to know more, hit me up, but keep your postcards cheap and simple, right? Yep. And the key is that keep good track. Always ask for a phone number and ask if that is a cell or a landline, and always get an email address. What does that mean? That means that you don't have to mail them anymore. I mean, technically, should you mail somebody that calls you again? We do, right? Yeah. We only stop mailing if we've engaged with them, right?
Totally.
Because just because they called and, we didn't, get a yes. You got to decide for yourself on that. But we don't always take those people off our list until we've had like a real conversation with them, right? So,
and that's another thing that I didn't talk about earlier was the how many times should you mail them? And we don't stop. That's the answer. Don't stop.
You want to know what? Claudette, our call ninja, just told me yesterday she got a call from off our postcard from actually a Coldwell Banker Bain real estate agent. And every time we get agent calls, I figure they're calling to bitch us out or yell at us or, something like that, right? But we always take everything head on. If anybody wants to call and yell at us or complain about us, we call them right back and we take it head on because we have nothing to hide, nothing to fear. And it actually always, knock on wood, works in our favor that all of a sudden people are like, oh my God, let me know more about Seattle Investors Club or, communication is key, right? But I was like, oh, here's an agent calling, try to say something. Call them up, be nice, do your thing. You know what that person said? They called her up and they said, I just want to tell you that you guys, I don't know what it is that you 100% do, but I'm so impressed with you because you guys have mailed me and called me and you constantly mail me and you've called me like 9 times and I've never spoke to you. And I'm calling you back now after 9 calls. And I just want to tell you how good of a job you're doing. I am not kidding.
Wow.
Yeah. So of course she called me and,
Can we get that in writing?
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying I said, that's exactly my point and what's awesome. And when you get a call or somebody doesn't answer, you've called them 6 or 7 times, you should be like, cool, that was number 7. Now I just need to get to like number 11 and I'm going to get this deal on the contacts. That's the mentality that we teach our team. Every time you get no answer or, oh, call me in 3 months, you're like, awesome, one more click forward because we know once we get to that 7 to 9, 12 times, we're going to get that deal.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
No, not always, but I'm telling you guys to keep the faith and, get happy about that you're on your 6th no. You don't worry about it. That's like one step closer to heaven. So there you go. We beat that one to death too, right?
Beat it down.
Want to add on that? What do you put on a postcard? I don't know. We've tried some stuff. Most everything never works any different than anything else. Isn't that the answer?
Yep. And actually the fancy seemed to work worse than everything else. But then every other kind of test verbiage and whatnot that we've tried seems to just be a matter of when we're touching the people and if it's the right time or not. Right.
Yep. I mean, if you have a niche and you can offer some, maybe if you're, maybe there's a way to find that niche, but it's just a constant thing. You got to try. The point is, don't give up.
That is the super point, is that you just put your head down and do whatever it takes, like what you said earlier.
Right. All right. Well, let's go up to the next one here. So one of the questions I get asked all the time, because I'm an agent investor, right? Big broker. If you guys need help with your properties on evaluations or listings, you can get a nice, I'll give you a discount and you can work with the A-team here. But I get asked all the time, I get asked this even when there's other brokers involved, which is fun and irritating for me at the same time. But how do I calculate the ARV on something when there's no great comps? How do I calculate the market value, my exit value when there's no great comps? Well, first of all, if you're being sold a property from a wholesaler, remember, they're trying to sell you something. So you should never trust their comps. You always got to figure out what your own are. My number one answer to this question is you shouldn't be buying a property that has no comps. I know you're desperate and excited to get a property, but the reason why you're actually getting the opportunity, most likely, is because all the other experienced investors are passing on it. So if you're new and you're being shown a property by a wholesaler that has no comps, there's probably a reason, which is that other experienced investors have passed on it. Does that mean that it's a no-go? No, it means it's your chance to negotiate, right? You shouldn't buy a property that has no comps. And one comp is not enough, right? Especially right now when we're in a shifting and adjusting market. I want to say off the top, any properties that you've looked at that sold in the first quarter of 2018, that sold anywhere from January or even closed in early June, up through that time, we are in a 100% different environment right now. And so, a comp on the same street that sold in April of 2018, I would actually scale back about 2 or 3% off that sale price when calculating the ARV for your project if you're in the Seattle area or Bellevue or something like that right now. If you're further north, like Shoreline even, or further north, or you're further south, South King, Pierce County is super hot, so that's a different animal. But I'd say that you might even scale back 5% right now on your ARV as compared to a property that sold the first quarter or up through April, May, maybe even June. Okay, just a little side note there. And it is August 2nd, 2018 when we're recording this podcast. Times have changed. We've shifted. We've capped. Is it a summer blip? I don't think so. I think it's a full change in buyer sentiment. That's my opinion. And you guys can follow along with asking everybody else their opinion and make your own. But so how do you calculate ARV when there's no great comps? The question is, when you comp properties, you have natural borders of the neighborhood that you're in, okay? So you have your properties located on some street, and to the north and to the south, there are main thoroughfares. Don't cross over those, okay? To the east and to the west, there's main thoroughfares. Don't cross over theirs. Stay within your box or whatever those. You might have that main street be like 1 block over, right? Not, normally when you comp, you can go out like half a mile radius. But you want to stay inside the box of where the main streets and main thoroughfares are around the property that your subject property that you're looking at. So the question is, if I can't find any great comps in there, but there's one just on the other side of one of those main thoroughfares that looks like a perfect property and matches up perfectly, should I use that as a comp? My answer is no. I would be reluctant. Because why? Because it is probably a different neighborhood if you've crossed over a main thoroughfare. That means it could be a different school district, and different school districts have different values. Some, they like them or not. If it's a better school district and you're crossing over, you need to maybe consider that, but understand that yours maybe should be lower, if that makes any sense. I prefer never to cross over the main thoroughfares. Instead, I prefer to go back in time. So instead of going just 3 or 6 months back, maybe go back a full year and just look for something within the same neighborhood area rather than jumping across the lines for the reasons that I've described there. And the other thing you can do is, let's say you've got a rambler, or let's say you've got a 1-story with a basement house as your subject property, and there's only been like a bunch of ramblers that have sold in the last 3 to 6 months around you. Right? And your 1-story with a basement subject property is 1,200 square feet on the main floor and 700 square feet in the basement. And then you've got this rambler nearby that is 1,200 square feet on the main floor and doesn't have a basement, obviously, right? One of the things I might do is I might just say, okay, well, the main floor spaces are the same. So what did that rambler sell for? That was 1,200 square feet, right? My property, if it was main floor to main floor, should be worth about the same, assuming the finishes are equal. But I have this 700 square feet of space downstairs. How should I calculate that? Well, when I calculate my comps, I always break it down between main floor space and basement space, or main floor space and second story space, or whatever, right? I always break down the square footage side by side of all my comps, right? And any premiums or differences in sizes, I apply kind of a price per square foot to that's always worked for me. And I'm not hiding information, so I'll share with you guys what that is. If I had two similar homes and one was 1,200 square feet and one was 1,400 square feet and they were both ramblers, I would take that 200 square foot difference and I'd multiply it by 125, like $125 a foot, regardless of what the price per square foot of the home would normally sell for. I cap it at $125 a square foot to calculate that premium difference. If it was basement space on the differences in sizes, I use $50 a square foot because basement space is worth less than main floor space. So back to our main question, how do I calculate ARV when there's no great comps? So I've got my subject property is one story with a basement, and the only thing in my neighborhood, because I don't want to cross over lines and main thoroughfares to go into other neighborhoods to find a matching property, maybe I'll take that Rambler and compare the main floor square footage, calculate my $125 a square foot difference on size, and then I'll take that extra $700 I have in the basement on my main floor, and I'll calculate that by $50, or on my subject property, and I'll calculate that by $50 a square foot. So if the Rambler comp sold for $500 and my main floor space was 200 square foot larger, whatever 200 times 125 is what I'd add to the premium for the main floor space on my comp. And then I'd add another 700 square feet in the basement times $50 a square foot as the premium to add on for that basement space. You guys following what I'm saying? If you're members of Seattle Investors Club, we have a training video related to this exact thing, how to comp properties right inside our membership site. It only costs, $220 a year to join Seattle Investors Club?
For the year.
For the year, that one lesson, plus all the access to everything else, that one lesson of watching that video is worth $220. I can guarantee you that, right?
Yep.
So you guys get what I'm saying is if I'm forced to do that, an appraiser won't do that because an appraiser only will use like kind to like kind properties. But to calculate an ARV when there is no good comps, that's probably how I would do it. Or I'd go back further, a year further, and I'd make some assumptions like, okay, properties are worth 12% more now than they were a year ago. I'd do some research on what the gain was year over year, and I, might do some interpolation there. But rarely, if ever, do I go outside the natural boundaries of the neighborhood that I'm in. I mean, I'll say I never do. I don't. That's like the very last thing I would ever do. So the number one point, though, aside from all these calculations and detailed number dork stuff, is that I wouldn't buy a property that has no comps. I would not. But that's me, right? I wouldn't. Or I would be super conservative. As a newbie, and you're getting some great opportunity from some big wholesaler, there's a reason. If it has no comps, then call me and let me help you before you decide and commit yourself to that deal. Because a lot of time I see even very experienced wholesalers provide comps that are BS because they can't find any either. So they go a mile away and they cross over the borders of those neighborhoods. And I'm like, how can that possibly be a comp? It's a completely different neighborhood, different school district. Beware, buyer beware. Is it, they're just selling you something, right? So whose fault is it? Is it theirs for pulling the wool over your eyes? No, it's not. It's yours for not using your common sense. Don't trust anybody. Okay. Get a second opinion. I'm here for you. Julie at SeattleInvestorsClub.com.
Mic drop.
That's my, okay. Oh, I just tried to slap the mic. Trying to simulate a mic drop. Did not work. So again, another long-winded answer for my long-winded day. While Joe was talking, I tried to down and eat a bunch of gummy bears. See if I could goose myself up to like the super energy level. So I'd maybe have shorter answers. It didn't work. Sorry.
Didn't work. Do you feel more energized though?
No, now I just feel thirsty.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Joe, I'm breaking all your rules. But
well, I can talk about what my next question is, and you can go get some water.
Okay, that sounds good. Go for it.
Well, we talked about how, maybe we should even tell people the questions that I get asked that are not real estate related. And one of them that I get all the time from real estate people is, how do I get in shape? So to make this as short as I possibly can and as simple as I possibly can, because we do believe in health and wealth around here. We believe in,
Joe's the health side and I'm the wealth side. Let's be clear.
there you go. However it works. And it is important to be healthy so that you can spend all this money that you're going to make or that you are making with this advice that we're giving you. So I've been trying to break this down for the people that ask me, and I get asked this question every single event we have, definitely. Or after people get to know me a little bit, let's say that we've talked on the phone or had coffee or they've been emailing back and forth. It's like the 10th email. They're like, so I know we've been talking about real estate, but how can I, burn some of this fat on my stomach or whatnot? It always comes up. Most easy, 3 steps right now. Try out intermittent fasting. So you only eat from 12 noon until 8 p.m. So there's 8-hour window. Do some weightlifting. If you don't know what to do, go to CrossFit.com. They have workouts they put out every single day. And do some cardiovascular training. So running, walking, swimming, riding, something like that. Weightlifting 3 times a week, cardio 3 times a week, and intermittent fasting. And that is it for
How long do you do intermittent fasting?
What do you mean, like per day?
No, I mean, so you can eat between 12 and 8. Do you do that for you only eat during those hours for a week or what?
For life, for the most part. Okay. Yeah, and I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. So if people really wanted to dig into that a little bit more, we could talk about, ways of cycling through that and doing it for a certain amount of time. The body's an adaptive organism, so doing something forever usually doesn't work that well. You could do 100 push-ups a day, but it will probably only get results for the first month, and then it will just
Oh my God, that
stop.
must be my problem.
You've been hitting those 1,000 push-ups a day for a while now, huh?
Man, God, I wondered why I was not working when I've been doing those 1,000 push-ups a day.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah, we need to put a weight vest on you or something, or have the kids stand on your back. That would work.
Yeah, that would work. They would enjoy that. So what else? Where can they find? There's more. You have an awesome other sites that people, if who are interested in wealth or health, fitness, all that.
Yeah. So if you guys want a deep dive, make sure that you check out allaroundjoe.com. And I dive very deep into stuff. But yeah, ask me questions if you have them. Go to allaroundjoe.com, ask questions. I may try and make things as simple as possible so that people will get started. Just kind of like what we're doing here with real estate. It's like if it's too complicated, it's not going to work, or you're not going to continue doing it. So exactly. Same thing with your health and your fitness. And like Julie said earlier, you just have to commit to it and know that you're going to keep moving forward until you get the result that you want. So if that's like to make $1 million in real estate, you just put your head down and you keep committed to that, and you keep adjusting along the way. It's not like you just keep doing the same thing and hope for a different result. You adjust it, and if you wanted to have, if your abs show up or whatnot, or be super healthy, have the best blood work ever, you just keep adjusting what you're doing until you get to that result. It's not like, oh, I did it for a month, or, like the example earlier, I did it for 3 months and I didn't get a result. It's like, well, that was probably because you only did it for 3 months, and 0.1% of the population ever got lucky enough to have those results work in the first 3 months.
There you go. It's kind of like real estate investing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And if it did work, we have a name for that. I think I've heard a name called, we call new investors newbies, but we call people that have a home run in the first 3 months luckies. Right? Can be confusing, right? Because you think that's the norm. Well, it's not, right? But it can be. The best thing you can do, I'll just transition. Hey, look at that. Good transition into one of the questions that I get, which is, how can I find other investors to partner with, right? How can I, that's a transition off of, how do you get started? How do you make something happen in the first 3 months? Best way to make something happen in the first 3 months is to offer whatever you have to offer to somebody that's more experienced than you. I think we did a YouTube video about this, about how you need to assess what it is that you're bringing to the table, right? That's either money, hustle, maybe you're a real estate agent, or maybe you're a contractor. Those are things that you can bring to the table. Then go network and find people that are also interested in real estate investing that have the opposite skill set you do. And you guys partner up and share skill sets. Each brings something to the table. How do you find those other investors to partner with? Well, you got to show up and network. You got to go to the Seattle Investors Club meetings, or you got to go to, Bigger Pockets meetups, or any of the other real estate investing meetups around town. And you just got to start networking with other investors, and seek out who has had some experience. You don't want to partner with somebody with no experience. Two no experienced people, you don't get very far, in my opinion, right? Even if one of you is a contractor and one of you is a broker, I still think that if you're both brand new, that's not a perfect match. I think matching up with somebody that needs your skill set because they lack it on their team, maybe that's money. Maybe they need some equity for some of the deals they have, and they're willing to partner with you and show you everything they know. That kind of partnering is what I'm talking about. Quote partners, not like true company partners, just kind of deal by deal. But how do I find other people, to meet other investors that I might be able to learn from? We can't learn off of, you can't meet people on a podcast, right? So you got to commit yourself to going to every meetup you can find. Ours being one that we will absolutely welcome you to. And not only that, try and introduce you to the people we think would be good partnering with, because we know who the experienced people are. Could you put something out on your social media that says, hey, I'm interested in meeting other real estate investors. I bring this to the table. Does anybody need this? And, how can I help you? You could. It's impersonal. I don't think it works. I think in person, contact is best in those situations. So you're going to have to hoof it to all those meetings, and you'll probably learn something too. And it's fun. We're a community of friends. I know we are here in the Seattle area. So that's the best way to do it. Yeah, read on your own time, study on your own time, but get to those meetings in person. There's always something, we record all our meetings, and I know that some of the other clubs in town and meetups might record their meetings, but there is something that absolutely is different about being there in the room, because camera's not on the whole time. And there's always something special that comes out of attending one of those meetings. And if you're not willing to do that because you're busy, you work, you can't find the time, guess what? You're not going to make it as a real estate investor, because it requires a lot of time, a lot of work, and doing whatever it takes. And if that's too big of a mountain for you to climb to get your butt to a meeting, then, I think you have a extra large mountain to climb. That's my word on that.
Or even an impossible mountain to climb.
Maybe so. So networking is huge, right? That is the question. How can I find other investors to partner with? Answer. You got anything else, Joe? I might have one more.
Yeah, I have the people that ask me, how do I get started? Which is kind of like what you said. How do I find people to partner with?
That was one of my questions. Look at that.
So, yeah, we can kind of both give our opinions on this one. And the biggest thing that I always tell people is that, and I think this kind of plays off of the same thing that you were just saying, like you got to show up and do the face-to-face time, because when you're getting started, people, if they get to know you and you're a cool, genuine person, they will go out of their way to help you out. So when you're getting started, if you can go and meet a bunch of people and talk to them and tell them what you're trying to do, then I recommend either doing work for them, like try and see if you can take your skill set, like what we've talked about a lot of times. Maybe you're a marketer, maybe you're a hustler, maybe you're an extrovert that loves going in and talking with people, and you could be their door knocker or whatnot. But getting on their team as best as you can, and like I said, sometimes you can get paid minimum wage or something like that on a deal, or they have some other thing set up for you, but you go and do work for those particular people, but you have to go and meet them first. I get emails probably a couple times a month of people saying like, hey, I would love to do something for you, you know, so I can learn from you guys. And I'm like, I don't know who the heck you are. And if it's not that I don't want or I didn't have something for them to do, but it's like, man, if I met you like 3 different or, you know, 1, 3, 4, 5 different meetings and we like talked and I got to know you, man, and then you asked me that, I would go out of my way to help you out. I totally would, but I don't have that same feeling in my gut when I haven't actually seen you, met you, felt your energy, all that fun stuff. So I recommend that you do stuff for other people. If you can get paid to do it, that would be awesome. If you have that skill set, we've all got a skill set. Julie has done a podcast on that was awesome about figuring out how did it go, Julie? How do you say it?
I don't know.
Like
how do you get started, or where do you fit in?
Figuring out where do you fit in? Figuring out where you fit in. And it doesn't, a lot of people are like, well, I haven't done real estate. It's like, that doesn't mean that you don't fit in somewhere. That, you know, like technically on our team, I don't do real estate at all either. I do, you know, marketing, I do technology. I put all our systems in place so that things work. And Julie does real estate. I always tell people that people even still send me deals. And I'm like, you don't want me to look at this deal. you want to send it over to Julie. So it could be a skill set that you can bring to somebody's team that they haven't even thought about. And that's how I tell people to get started. So put in the FaceTime, see if you can talk with people, a spot that you would fit in, and then try and either do some paid hourly work for them, or maybe you even have to do some work for free. But that way you can get the experience of how they're doing. And you can figure out what they're doing first by having the face-to-face time to see if that's the type of business that you'd like to model.
Word. Good stuff. I have like a different twist on the answer to where should I start. It's kind of a new thing that I've been thinking about, talking to our friend Albert Bowie, who's a local awesome investor and mortgage expert on the lending side of things. You know, we got hard money, right? We all love our hard money lenders. We love Veristone Capital, is one of our favorite lenders in town. You know, everybody who's getting started should open a hard money file so you have that ready to go. You just ask for Travis Wandell over at Veristone Capital and get your file set up, because you don't want to do that once you got a deal in front of you. You never know when's going to drop in your lap. You need to have that set up ahead of time. Regardless if you have money or not, everybody needs to have a hard money file set up just to, maybe you don't want to use all your money. Maybe it makes sense to use hard money and layer some of your money on, you know, do a bunch of deals if you have money, and just use your equity in the equity requirement, you know, call that 20%, let's just say 10 to 20% that you need there. But my new way of thinking about how do I get started is, yes, you're going to assess what you can bring to the table. But I also think there's something interesting that I've been thinking about lately, which is you should go and learn about debt. What lane are you in regards to how much money you can borrow, right? If you have no credit or bad credit or whatever, and you have no money, well, then you're in the hard money category, right? Where if you get a great deal, you know, and you don't have any borrowing capacity through your personal credit, then you're in the hard money lane. And I think we've done a podcast on which lane am I in. Yep. And you guys should go back. I don't know if you can link that one to this podcast, Joe, so they can reference back to it. Which lane am I in? That means like how many tools do you have in your toolbox, and how much competitive edge do you have in regards to your skill sets as an investor, whether you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced. We're all in different lanes, and we all should be achieving, you know, working towards trying to get in the fastest lane that we can get in. But I think when it comes to real estate investing, people are always taught about how to flip a house, how to house hack, you know, multifamily is something you should pursue later. Well, I disagree with all that. My mind is actually changing. I actually think that everybody, no matter what category that you're in, should be looking for cash flow properties and those opportunities from the beginning. They don't always require a lot of money, especially if there's seller financing and things like that involved. But understanding out of the gate, like which lane you're in as as far as you go as a borrower will actually dictate which lane you're in as an investor, right? And what actions, if you're in lane 1, the starter lane, there's sort of action steps that I would recommend that you take if you're brand new with no money and no credit, but you have a lot of hustle, or maybe you're a contractor, or maybe your credit's bad and you're working its way back up. There's still a lane for everybody. Everybody can fit in, right? But your ability to borrow money, because even if you use hard money, you've got to come up with 10 to 20% for the equity portion. They don't loan 100%. Okay. So let's say you have a job at Microsoft, you want to get into real estate investing, and you're either renting a house or you've owned a house and you've not maxed out your borrowing capacity. I suggest that you call our friend Albert Bowie. If you want his contact information, email me at julie@seattleiinvestorsclub.com. Why do I love him? Because he's smart. Everything he says is smart, and because he knows how to work with investors in all different types of situations. And it's just, don't worry about it. Just call him because I said so. Don't waste your time trying to figure out why. And go get qualified with him and understand what your borrowing capacity is. And that will help tell you which lane as an investor that you should focus on right now until you can get to the next lane. Can you borrow? If you had a duplex or triplex opportunity come across your path, and the cash flow off that property, if you were to take 75% of the cash flow off that property as a number, and then subtract off any loan, principal, interest, taxes, and stuff that you have off that number, and that number is a positive, it won't impact your credit and your borrowing ability to buy that property if it cash flows well enough, right? If it cash flows where that number is, $300 a month in the hole, it doesn't mean it's cash flowing in the whole $300. It just means that you need to cover out of your credit $300 a month of a payment. And maybe if you're, have a day job and you're getting started, you can suck that up easily. You can, you need to know that, because you could be getting into situations that you might not realize that are opportunities that you can take on right now. Everybody should keep their day job until they know they can replace it with, monthly cash flow off properties or whatever that more than cover their monthly nut. I'm just saying that people are taught to go flip, where I think if you would understand what your borrowing capacity is, that it will open your eyes to a whole world that will get you to the top of the mountain faster, which is called buy and hold and cash flow properties. You don't need to do that last after you've learned how to flip and house hack and all these other things. You need to put that in your world now, from the beginning. If you run across that opportunity or need any more help, again, julie@seattleininvestorsclub.com. I'm going to actually try and do a podcast topic with Albert, our buddy, on this, because him and I have been talking about, it's people get taught this later rather than up front. And I want to flip everything upside down and have you guys learn this up front, because it really changes what you can do out the gate, no matter how much experience you have, because all you need is for somebody to tell you they want to sell their property. When you're hanging out with a group of investors and you're in a local real estate, wherever you are across the country, you have a local real estate investment club, there will be people there that got your back, that you can partner with, that you can have help analyze deals. As long as you're part of a community of like-minded investors, you don't need to worry about how things work. You literally just need to get the opportunity, right? And to encourage yourself on how great your life could be as an investor, knowing what your borrowing capacity is will set you up for deciding which lane you can jump in first. Because I guarantee you, it might be a faster lane than you think if you knew the answer to that. It's sort of a complicated thing, what I just said. We're going to be talking more about it. Like I said, we'll try to do another podcast on this topic specifically on a deep dive. But if you want to know more about this, in the meantime, just contact me, to get clarification. Maybe I'll do a YouTube video or put out a video of tips of the day for you guys on that topic, because I'm totally excited about flipping things backwards. I'm so bored with this learn how to flip a house stuff. The market's changing. People are missing opportunities because they're told to focus on, this mainstream one way of thinking out the gate, which is actually not the smartest way to get started. It's a very narrow tunnel that you're put in when you get started as a real estate investor. And my suggestion is that you're on a much bigger highway than you think. You just got to know which lane that you're in. Okay. Word. Peace out. Mic drop. Can't mic
Boom.
drop, so I did a clap.
Drop it down.
But that's it. That's all I got today. Because Joe, we're doubling down today, right?
Oh yeah, we sure are.
We sure are. Because Joe likes to go on vacation, and I like to plan like I'm going to go on vacation. And we need to have a bank of these podcasts. So we are doubling up today.
Yeah.
Recording more than one.
Heck yeah. Gotta batch it out. Get it done.
Get it done, because we have goals and we need to stay focused and grind it through like we're telling you guys.
Heck yeah.
Following our own advice here.
Yeah, if you guys would like to get the show notes for this episode, all you have to do is go to seattleinvestorsclub.com/42. That's seattleinvestorsclub.com/42. And guess what, Julie?
What?
We had another 5-star review on the podcast this week.
Wow. Hey, thanks.
Yeah,
5-star reviewer. That totally helps us out, guys.
It totally helps us out. And not only that, we get super excited about it when we do our Monday morning calls. We definitely do a virtual high five every time that happens. So we would love it if you guys enjoy this podcast. You head over to seattleiinvestorsclub.com/iTunes and give us a review. That, like Julie said, totally helps us out. And
it's a good back scratch, guys. We help you. That helps us. We would love that. Thank you in advance for that.
Yep, absolutely. So that's all I've got today. Julie, do you have anything else?
I don't. I'm still thirsty, and I've run out of gummy bears. So I think I'm going to have to figure out what to do here before our next one.
Yeah, re-up that coffee supply maybe. I think I'll have some green tea, maybe a little matcha.
Hey, I think I'm going to take Buddy for a walk, get a little fresh air in the meantime.
Sounds like a good plan to me. All right,
guys.
Partner.
All right, catch you on the backside.
All right, see you later.
Oh.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.